1874 Preview Show.
I don't think we are. Yes, we are. I'm being told in my ear we're live. I didn't even get, honestly, the inconsistencies on this channel of what happens when you're live. Sometimes we see an intro, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it comes up in big lettering saying you are live. Today, absolutely nothing at all. So I just was like Ron Burgundy on Anchorman. Like, I don't believe you. I just didn't believe
I've got
that
no
we were
idea
live.
what's going on.
You didn't know we were live either, did you, Dave? It's
No
me.
clue.
Right. I mean, for audio listeners, it's just like carnage at the start of these shows. I imagine they haven't got a clue what's going on. Here we go. Christopher Hammond's telling us in the chat we are live, so we may as well start the show, Dave. This is an 1874 preview show as Villa take on Fulham at Villa Park Sunday, 2:00. Another Sunday, 2:00 game. Dave, my Sky Sports News colleague, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, went to the game last night. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It felt very cold, I must admit, there last night.
It's freezing.
The victory warmed us up, didn't it?
It warmed the soul, warmed the cockles, didn't it, Dave Reed? AVFC is in the comments as well. Always good to know that AVFC is awake when we do these shows. Did fall asleep in a podcast a few months ago, as I like to mention every single show now. Let's talk about last night a little bit, Dave. Villa feels like we've kind of navigated our way through that group now with 3 wins in a row. 3 wins usually sees you through in a group, I would say. Made it more difficult than it needed to be, but actually quite enjoyed the fact that we came from behind. I think that's a good omen. That's a good sign. It's not something that we do frequently. It feels like in my head that could be wrong. That could be something that Emery's changed historically. But in my head, I feel like if we go one down, we don't win the game. So great to come back and win the game last night. Carlos getting his first goal, but then going off injured, as seems to be the way with him. Every time he gets a bit of momentum, starts to get going, he breaks down with something that's unfortunate. Hopefully he's not out for too long. And great to see Ollie Watkins on the score sheet as well. He'd only been 2 games without a goal. Ollie Watkins, I think Dave, maybe 3. I think it's 2 in my head. But you always feel like going into a Premier League game, if Ollie Watkins has scored in the last game, you feel like he may go on a run again now and score a few goals on Sunday?
Yeah, there was some good positives last night. I thought Tielemans was good, first half in particular. I thought Bailey did well again. Watkins kind of came to life a little bit in the second half. I wanted us to kind of get the ball into him a little bit quicker and a little bit earlier and kind of involve him a little bit more in the build-up. It seemed like he was a little bit out of the game until really he got involved in that second half and got his goal. I thought he could have been involved a little bit more, showing to the ball, or even them just firing it into his feet. Because I thought he had the beating of their defender, and it kind of carried on from the Nottingham Forest game, really, where he was kind of defended really well. Nottingham Forest defended him really well, and I was just waiting for him to sort of get in the game last night. And eventually he did. I thought we could have maybe fed him a little bit earlier, but it was nice to see him score. Obviously, Douglas Luiz came off the bench and dropped a 10 out of 10, which is nice to see. So yeah, and like you say, I was expecting them to be better than the game at their place, and that's the way it turned out to be. I thought it would be a difficult game last night, just because they'll come and they'll be much better, and that's kind of how it turned out. So a good positive performance. I feel like, again, the away leg, the reverse fixture in the group, I kind of described it as a more mature performance on air last week or the week before. And it felt like another mature performance again last night, but in a slightly different way. Maturity in terms of, not being unsettled when we went behind, and also just, continuing with the way that we like to play, even though, the ebb and flow of the game wasn't with us for the whole time. So a different kind of maturity, I thought, last night. And yes, now you would like to think that we're going to qualify for the next stage, and hopefully as group winners as well.
I almost feel like in these games that we're holding something back. We named a very, very strong team. It was a touch stronger than I thought we'd go with actually last night. But I feel like we're kind of managing ourselves through the game so that we're able to keep the fitness and keep the sharpness and go in the style and the tempo that we want to go on Sunday. And it felt to me a little bit like that, and that we exerted ourselves a little bit more when we went one down, just on Luiz coming on. He's obviously Villa's key man, really, in terms of outfielders. Lovely link up for the goal, lovely ball in. I don't know whether you saw it, but Emery was talking about Luiz after the Forest game. It's kind of putting a bit of pressure on him, actually saying what a good player he was, but saying to him, I want more from him. I want more goals. I want more assists. And Dougie's obviously responded and got an assist straight away. I thought those comments after in the last week were really interesting because Luiz is Villa's player of the year last season. He's probably been our player of the year again so far this season as well. So interesting that Emery decided to single him out and say he wants more from him. He didn't do it in a nasty way, but I thought that was really intriguing.
Yeah, I think it was, and before the Brighton game at home, I think he said he wanted him to score more goals, and then he scored in that game. And then now he says, he wants assists, and he's hoping for him to add into that game. I think it just shows really the development that Unai Emery believes that he's still got, and he's not still reached his highest level. And if Unai Emery is recognising that in a player, given his wealth of experience in the game, you think then that Douglas Luiz would be able to take his game to another level than what we've seen already this season. There's no doubt probably he's been the standout player this season. And I think for him personally, it's now feels like he kind of knows where he wants to be on the pitch. When Villa first signed him, he was was he a number 6? Was he a number 8? Could he take the ball off the centre backs and build play? Could he be the the attacking midfielder? Does he take free kicks? Does he take corners? Does he take penalties? And now it's kind of his game has developed somewhat, and now you feel like he is that box to box that's able to score goals. He's able to provide assists. His set piece delivery has been key as well. So I think from his development, he's now kind of nailing down his position and knows. Just given with the experience of playing in England, really, I think it's taken him time to get used to the game, to get used to the pace of it, the physicality, and now we're seeing the fruits of that, really, because I think he has nailed down his position.
Yeah, it's really interesting, even in a game where he didn't start last night. We kind of needed to get him on, and as soon as he came on the pitch, we did look better. Actually, not having to go at Tielemans because I really like Tielemans, but as soon as Luiz came on, we did look better. And obviously, he's a great player to bring off the bench, Dougie. And it was a kind of goal I don't really remember scoring too many goals like that under Emery. Actually, with the kind of central cross that was almost like a De Bruyne cross. Really, that's the kind of cross that De Bruyne does from the middle of the park, and Watkins getting on the end of it and scoring a header. Doesn't score loads of headers, but he's quite proficient in the air. So it was a nice goal and leads us into Sunday nicely with Watkins getting back on the score sheet and Luiz, our key player, having a rest, in my opinion. Before we crack on with the rest of the show, this show is actually sponsored by Manscaped, and the other day I recorded a little message to tell you all about what Manscaped have to offer. So hopefully Lee will roll the clip. Manscaped have been a friend of the channel for some time now, and they have launched a fantastic range of facial hair products, including the new Handyman electric face shaver. This is designed to give your face that smooth finish without the mess of a wet shave, and it's the perfect tool for men with any beard length. So I've got it here in front of me. It's a very nice little bit of kit. Looks like a little bit like an old mobile phone, actually, in some way. So I haven't actually used this yet, but it's very compact. It's very small, and yeah, so feel like it would make a good Christmas present because I don't ever wet shave, but maybe this would encourage me to wet shave more because it is less faffy. I literally just whack it around my face and it does the job. So I haven't used it yet, but it looks like a nice piece of kit, perfect as a stocking filler this Christmas. Now, if you have a fuller beard like I normally do, they've also got a product called the Beard Hedger, and it comes in a lovely little packet like this. Not packet, it's not really a packet. It comes in a lovely little travel case, let's call it. You just charge it up. It's a USB charger, so you just whack it in and charge it on USB, and it charges very quickly. Now, I have used this today. You'll notice I've basically taken my beard off today using this product, and yeah, really, really good. It goes down from so basically you can start at a really high length. The highest length that you can start with is an 8, and it obviously goes all the way down. Now, I used a 2 to take my beard off today. Got my beard down to a number 2. It was really quick. It did what I needed it to do, and again, probably a good stocking filler to give to someone who needs a product like this. Apparently, their cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths all in one with one guard, so no more messy drawers full of extra add-ons. And in fairness, that is true because it has just got the one thing on the top. So these things with the way that they've got the case as well, easy to take away and just stick in your wash bag. And with Christmas coming up, these are the kind of functional gifts that men like. So yeah, I'd have a look at these if I was you. And obviously, if you do it and you use our code, which is the Villa View in all capital letters, you will get 20% off and free shipping. Now, great work from Adam Bates yet again, because the channel isn't called the Villa View anymore, but the code is the Villa View, so you get 20% off and free shipping. All the details are in the description of this video, and I can genuinely review the product and say it's really good because I've used it, and you can visibly see that I've used it as well, because there's nothing on my face like there normally is. Made me look about 15 years younger, I reckon. So yeah, if you need some Manscaped products in your life, use our code, you'll get free shipping, and you'll also help our channel. Thank you very much, and thanks to Manscaped. Right, we're back. Thank you very much to Manscaped. I was about to say I felt like Don Draper and that a career in advertising was awaiting me, but having looked at some of the facials I was pulling on that video, I can't compare myself to Don Draper or John Hamm in any way at all, so I'm not going to say that. A few bits of laughter in the chat I can see. For the love of Paul McGrath and Neil, he's going to buy a hedger, he says there. I'm going to hold him to that and make sure that he does proceed with the transaction. David, let's not talk about Manscaped anymore. Let's talk about Fulham then. What are we expecting from Fulham? 15th in the table at the moment. Bit of a bitty start to the season. Obviously, they had all the Mitrovic stuff in the summer. Also, the manager, there was a bit of Kafore over. Is Kafore a word? There was a bit of a no one knew whether he was going to be there at the start of the season. And then Paulinho on the last day as well. We were working that day, and we were like in amazement when it looked like he was going to go to Bayern Munich for massive money. So they've had a disruptive start to the season. Don't really know what to expect from them, because I don't think they're a bad team. But you can't really deny that Mitrovic is a huge miss for them up top.
Yeah, massive. You kind of summarised their summer quite well there. So
apart from the word that I made up,
apart from that weird word,
that's not a word.
So the summer was very much disrupted. Mitrovic said he kind of didn't want to play for them. Massive bid from Saudi came in for him. He was the player that Fulham shaped their game around last season. He obviously had the big ban as well for the altercation with the official, and I think if he hadn't have got that, he would have scored even more goals than he did do already last season. They kind of shaped their game around getting crosses into the box and getting him kind of pulling onto the fullback almost at the back stick and heading a lot of goals from that position inside the penalty area. So the issue around him was very disruptive. The manager also had interest from Saudi. He's just signed a new contract in the last couple of weeks. And then Paulinho, as you say, he was actually at the Bayern Munich training ground ready to do the deal. And Fulham essentially didn't have enough time to get a replacement in and pulled the plug on the deal. And Paulinho had to come back on the plane and restart training and go back in. And I think, testament to him, he's been, once again, their best player this season, João Paulinho. So he's managed to get on with things. I think he was good against Manchester United, slightly unlucky against Manchester United, Fulham, I thought. But they might be, they'll have to invest in January, because I think a forward player they would like to sign. And probably a central midfielder should João Paulinho leave. So I think January is going to be busy. They will have some money to spend there. And I think they might be a team again who kind of will improve as the season goes on. Look, I think if you'd have asked Fulham fans at the end of the transfer window, they'd have said, look, strip it all back. I think there's going to be 3 worse teams than us and we'll avoid relegation. I think Fulham fans would like to have a little bit more ambition than that. I think the manager would like to have a little bit more ambition than that. But given the kind of disruption that they had in the summer, I think if you'd have asked them then, they would have said, there's 3 worse teams than us. And I think that's probably how it's going to transpire as well. And they'll avoid relegation. They've got some talented players. They've got players who would like to be around that top 10 position in the Premier League. It's just whether they'll be able to piece that together this season. Yeah,
I always think Pood's in the comments asking Kafore who does he play for. So it sounds like an old centre back, Scandinavian centre back that played for Villa. Joris Kafore playing at centre back for Villa a few years ago. I always think with Fulham, Paulinho is a monster in midfield. One of my favourite players in the Premier League. Actually, talked about him so many times on various podcasts that I do. I think he's been a great pickup for them. And, he missed games last season. They always shipped loads of goals in the games where he didn't play. I always think with Fulham, if you can kind of bypass Paulinho and get through him, which is, not an easy task always, they've got a defence that can be got at. I do think that their defence is susceptible, although I really like Anthony Robinson at left back. I think he's a good left back going both ways. They've also got a good goalkeeper who makes a lot of saves. So they've kind of got these good individuals dotted around the team, and then some good pros, some good players there. But you wouldn't really fancy them to score a load of goals. That's the problem with Fulham. Although Villa are conceding every game at the moment, you wouldn't really fancy them to trouble us too much in defence. They're quite defensive away from home. It's just whether we can break through Paulinho and get past the goalkeeper. Those two feel like the key players to me.
Yeah, I think Marco Silva said in an interview early this year that Bernd Leno was probably the best signing that Fulham have made under him. So he's done exceptionally well. I think you're right about Anthony Robinson. I really like him. I think he's very good at left back. They've obviously had injury issues. Kenny Tet, the right back, Tosin as well, centre back. I really rate Tosin. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. I think he's going to be good. But question marks over whether they'll be back for this game. I think they've been in training from what Marco Silva has said today. So whether they'll have enough match sharpness to play, and what they've done in their absence essentially is have two left footers as centre backs in Calvin Bassey and Tim Ream. Tim Ream playing the kind of left-sided centre back, and Calvin Bassey. Now, given Tim Ream's age, and no disrespect because he's probably still younger than me and you, but it means they can't play a high line because he doesn't have the pace to run the other way towards his own goal and defend facing his own goal. So naturally, Fulham will have to play a little bit deeper with Tim Ream in there and alongside Calvin Bassey. And, the obvious thing when you looked at Fulham against Spurs, if people saw the game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Tottenham's press we all talked about, but what they tried to do was isolate Calvin Bassey on his right foot. And I think one of their goals came from one of his clearances. So if Villa decide to push up and play high up the pitch, that'll be something that they'll be looking to try and force Calvin Bassey out wide onto his right foot. I think Fulham will probably, their game against Brighton that they drew will kind of give us a few clues as to how they might set up. So Marco Silva likes his 4-2-3-1. The question mark is who's going to be alongside Paulinho. Will it be a more attacking kind of player profile like an Alex Iwobi, or will he bring in someone like Sasa Lukic, who came off the bench against Manchester United, or someone like Harrison Reed, who's a bit more of a ball player? Lukic is another player who will, likes to break up play rather than kind of dictate tempo. So it'll be a kind of the makeup of that 4-2-3-1 will be kind of dictated, I think, by their game plan. Will they decide to sit in, compact the middle of the pitch like RZ did last night, like Nottingham Forest did last week, compact the middle of the pitch and try and force Villa to build up out wide and get those crosses into the box, which didn't really happen to too great effect against Nottingham Forest. And then in forward areas for them, I think they will... it's a kind of toss-up on the right-hand side. Will it be Bobby De Cordova-Reid, who will probably have a little bit more in terms of defensive duty if he plays, or will it be someone like Harry Wilson who plays down the right-hand side and he can offer a little bit more attacking and also can cut inside on that left foot, which Villa will have to be mindful of. And then it'll probably be Willian on the left-hand side, or they might bring in Andreas Pereira as another option, who I think he had a good season last season, but has kind of been in and out of the side. And then question marks over who Fulham are going to start up front as well, because Rodrigo Muniz came off against Manchester United. Now, Marco Silva said today that he's going to be out for a while. So it's a case of, is it going to be Carlos Vinicius or is it going to be Raul Jimenez? Neither of those have got particularly great recent records in the Premier League. So you're right insofar as it doesn't look like they're going to score loads of goals this season, although Villa can't seem to keep a clean sheet at the moment. So they'll be confident of that. And then you look at the way they're going to set up out of possession. Sort of on the ball, it'll be a 4-2-3-1, and then they'll probably, what they did against Brighton anyway, was set up in a 4-4-2 off the ball, and then have one of the, basically have it as one of the whoever the attacking midfielder is, whether that's Iwobi, whether that's Willian Pereira, they'll kind of join in the first line of the press, and then it'll basically kind of be a 4-4-2 that they'll set up, and both the two forward players will sit on Luiz and Kamara and try and stop them playing through. So I think if you're looking for clues as to how they might set up that Brighton away game, which they got a point from, is probably a good indicator as to how they might set up at Villa Park.
Covered an awful lot of ground there, Dave. going through the bottom 10 there. You really did. I don't even know where to go after that. I think you covered every player that's ever played for Fulham in the history of the football club there. I was gonna say with Lukic in midfield, he'd probably be the one that makes sense alongside João Paulinho, because if they watched Villa last week against Forest, Mangala and Sonagro, Villa struggled against that midfielder with two physical midfielders sitting in. So if you're a Fulham fan, you'd probably be hoping that your team does the same thing again, albeit Villa are a different beast at home to what they are away. Emery didn't do a proper press conference today, kind of like a Zoom or something, where he just meets journalists online and has a little bit of a chat. Alex Moreno was discussed. Luca Dean's been doing well. I singled him out at the start of the season in a negative way, and to be fair to him, he's responded. Not that he cares what I think, but he's responded, and he's been good for Villa this season. But it would be great to have another option at left back, because quite frankly, with the amount of games that we've had at the moment, Luca Dean's just been flogged every week. He's playing every single game, so I get the feeling, I've got a sneaky suspicion that we might see Moreno start a home game against Nottingham Forest. I was surprised, not against Nottingham Forest, against Fulham. Even I was surprised he didn't get any minutes last night, but by the sounds of it, Emery kind of just said the game was too tight to introduce him. I've got a feeling he might play from the start on Sunday. That's with no inside knowledge whatsoever. Do you agree?
No, my hunch would be that Luca Dean starts and he would get maybe 20 minutes. It's been such a kind of long time out for Moreno that I think he would probably only be able to last half an hour maximum, I would have thought. So it would probably be another hour for Luca Dean, and then it depends on the game state, doesn't it? You know, if Villa are behind or ahead, or it's tight, that might play into Emery's thinking, as it did last night, where he said, the game was too tight to introduce him. I would expect him to have some minutes on Sunday ahead of the international break, because then again, that's going to be another 2-week period where he's not getting any minutes. So I think he will play a part on Sunday. I don't think it'll be from the start, but you're right, Luca Dean has played so many games already. But having said all that, I don't really think there's been too many dips in his performance. I think he's looked very strong and physically capable for all of those games. So fair play to him.
Yeah, Tim, Conser and McGinn, who don't really ever feel like they get a rest. To me, they're the three that I feel like have played the most so far for Villa. So it'd be interesting to see how those 3 minutes get managed going forward. Completely forgot. Oh yeah, Moreno. I was going to say, last night at half time, I was like, he must be coming on, because he was warming up in shorts. He had just like a train jacket on the top, and he was absolutely Baltic at Villa Park last night. So I thought he was bound to come on last night, but obviously he didn't. Fair play to him for warming up in shorts, because I was freezing in a big coat. I was. VFC is asking, could we play both Dean and Moreno? Probably not on Sunday, but I wouldn't rule that out as being something that we see in the future. Obviously, we know Ramsey's going to be back after the international break, hopefully as well. So team selection wise, I'm guessing if you're right and Moreno doesn't come in for Luca Dean, the team that played against Nottingham Forest is probably going to get another chance.
Yeah, I suspect so. I mean, just going back to that question, I think what we could see is not necessarily Moreno coming on for Dean. It might be a Zaniolo, or it might be a Bailey that he comes on for, and there's a bit of a shift around in midfield. So he's not given so much of the kind of defensive duties of running back and lots of 1v1 defending that you might have to get in those full-back positions. So I guess that's a possibility. Team selection-wise, yeah, I think it'll be the toss-up between Zaniolo and Bailey again. I think the fact that Diego Carlos looks like he's picked up an injury will kind of mean that it won't be the Conser, Carlos, Powell, Dean back 4. So I think it'll be Cash, Conser, Powell and Dean as that starting back 4. The only slight tweak I think that might happen is against Forest, Kamara, when we had settled possession, was kind of the right of that back 3, and Cash was pushing on. I suspect he might go back to how he's played in the past, with Cash playing as the lower defender there in settled possession, and Kamara in the middle of the park. I just feel like
you've got to do that, I think.
Yeah, I just feel like it might just beef things up a little bit in there if it's him. Louise and McGinn kind of in those central areas with another number 10 of Zaniolo and Diaby. So it's just a case of whether McGinn plays on the left or McGinn plays on the right, and then whoever plays comes in on the left hand side, whether that's Zaniolo, or whether it's Bailey who might play on the right hand side, and then McGinn plays on the left. But I get a feeling that he might just switch things up tactically in central midfield when we're on the ball against Fulham.
I think that'd be wise, especially in transition. Willian, Cash has had a few problems against tricky wingers on that side in recent weeks. So if he's too high up, I think that does leave him vulnerable. I think you're right about beefing up the midfield as well, because Paulinho in the middle of the park, simply he's their main man in the Fulham team. If we do a good job on him, I think we'll probably win the game. And obviously, at home, Dave, a chance to make it 13 home Premier League wins in a row, which is absolutely superb. We weren't doing predictions, but we're going to bring them back because we did predictions on Thursday, and I actually got the score right as well. I predicted Villa 2, Alkmaar 1. So we're going to bring predictions back because Villa lost to Forest, basically. So we feel like predictions can come back now. What are you saying for a score this weekend, Dave?
Well, I thought this might happen because I listened to the preview with Jacob. So I did have in the back of my mind a key player and
this guy does his prep. The whole history of Fulham Football Club and he's prepared for both scenarios.
Yeah. So I'm going to go 2-0 as the score prediction, and key players.
Clean sheet.
Yeah, I'm going clean sheet this time. So I'm going 2-0, and I'm going to go with Pau Torres as a key player because I feel like if Fulham pack out at the middle of the park, if they basically stop us playing, it will have a lot more responsibility on the centre-backs to find those through balls, to try and break the lines and find the feet of the 10s, to find the feet of Watkins. So I think Pau Torres' passing is going to be key come Sunday.
Didn't we both pick Matty Cash last week, and he went off with a shoulder injury before the hour? We lost 2-0. The week before, I picked Martinez, and he scored an own goal. So picking the key players going really well for this channel so far. I'm going to go for the same deficit as you. I'm going to go for 3-1 to Villa, though, because I think it'll be quite similar to the Luton game. This one, but key player wise, I'm probably going to go for Kamara in there. However he sets up on the ball and off the ball, I think Paulinho is their big player, and if Kamara can do a job in the middle of the park for us and help Louise run the game, I think he'll be the pivotal one this weekend. Dave, thanks ever so much for joining me. Always a pleasure to talk to you. And of course, there's an international break after this weekend, so there won't be a preview show with Dave and myself next week, but there will be a 1874 pod with Greg and myself, so watch out for that. Make sure you're doing all the good stuff on the video and the audio by liking, subscribing, post notifications on, and commenting as well. What do you think the score is going to be at the weekend? Thanks to all of those that have joined us live in the chat as well. Some good chat going on there, although it did feel like Sai AVFC was speaking to himself at times because there was a lot of Sai AVFC in there, but good to know he's awake, as I always say. Yeah, if you're at Villa Park on Sunday, I'll see you there. Come up and say hello. Have a good weekend leading up to the Villa game as well, and have a great Friday night. And as always, up the Villa.